My name is David Runciman, and I'm the Professor of Politics at Cambridge University. I also host a podcast that goes out every week called Talking Politics. Welcome to my exp. I think when you look at the question of young people in democracy and also the generation divide in democracy, we see two things going on at the moment. One is that generation divide is widening. It used to be the case that the big division in democratic politics was on the basis of class or income. So if you wanted to know how people voted, but also what political attitudes they were likely to have, the first question you'd want to ask was, what class does that person come from? Are they working class? Are they middle or upper class? Or how much money does that person earn? Now you discover much more by finding out the age of someone. People under the age of 35 tend to have political views, voting patterns, preferences on big questions that are very different from people over the age of 50, and particularly people over the age of 65. So that gap is widening, and you see it in elections all the time. In the UK, young people were overwhelmingly against Brexit. Older people were overwhelmingly in favour of Brexit. At the last UK general election, young people voted overwhelmingly for Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party. If only people under the age of 30 had been allowed to vote, Corbyn would be Prime Minister with the biggest majority in British political history. People over the age of 65 voted overwhelmingly for Boris Johnson and the Conservatives. And those two votes, the Brexit vote, the Corbyn-Johnson vote, show the other thing that's going on, which is a demographic shift. So when politics becomes a contest between young people and old people win because there are more of them. So we live in aging societies where there are more people over the age of 40 than under 40. And in some societies, Italy, Greece, Spain, more people over the age of 45. And in very few societies, Japan is one, more people over the age of 50. And the older people are, the more likely they are to vote. So there are more older people and they vote in greater numbers. We really see that divide acutely with an issue like climate change. For people under the age of 35, it is overwhelmingly, when they are asked in opinion surveys, the number one priority, tackling climate change. For people over the age of 65, it's very low down the list of priorities. It comes behind health and education and immigration and the economy. And if older people's views tend to be the ones that win in democratic contests, that is a big issue. And young people are increasingly angry, and you also see in surveys that many of them are suspicious now of democracy. They think it's skewed against them, and they have reason for thinking that. One remedy would be to give children the right to vote. I would favour that. But what's interesting about even suggesting that as a remedy, and I have suggested it, is that people are profoundly shocked by it. They think it's an incredibly radical idea to allow, say, 10-year-olds or 8-year-olds or even 6-year-olds to vote. They think it's dangerous. They think it's destabilizing. They think it could destroy democracy. And I would say in response to that, people made the same arguments about giving women the vote. So those arguments were wrong then and they're wrong now. It's not dangerous. Enfranchising children would not threaten anything. Children would not get to choose the next government because they would still be outvoted by people over the age of 18, but they would have a voice. And it's a question of what you think is really dangerous. So would giving children the vote be more dangerous than a political system that allows people who believe that climate change is not a priority to keep winning elections? Which of those two things is more dangerous? To have a political system that elects Donald Trump as President of the United States, or to have a political system in which school children are entitled to vote? I know the answer to that. children voting is not the most dangerous option.